looks like Visakha has sent us a message from this morning. And good morning / evening, Visakha, and good evening, Julie. Welcome those joining in. As always, we'll give it some minutes before we get started for people to straggle in. Welcome, Upasika Metika and Yankee. How's the audio and video? Hello, Gregory. Welcome. Good to see you again. All right. Welcome those joining. We're just giving it a few minutes before we get started so that people can scroll in. Hello, Malika. Welcome. Good morning. Did you get my comment? I sent you I responded to one of your comments. When I was in Australia, when I went to Dhammagiri, I had a little care package left for me by Malika. And there were normal requisites, but in it were these two little koala and kangaroo little toys. And so I gave him to where I'm staying here with my youngest sister with her two little kids. They like the kangaroo and the koala. So thank you for that care package. Hello, Jayanta. Welcome. Give it another minute or so, and then we'll get started. Hello, Dharma learner. Welcome. Hello, Audrey and John. Welcome. All right, I think we can get started. Let's share screen. Oh, Abby. And Ivy May. Where am I here? Okay, here we go. Sharing screen. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Parigamino gata apakate manusesu ye jana parigamino attayang tarapajja tirameva nudavati ye chako sammadakate dhamme dhamma nuvattino te jana parame santi machudeyang suduttarang kanhang dhammang viphaya sukhang bhaveta pandito okano kama gamma viveke yatta duramang tatra bira timiccheya hitva kameya kinchano pariyodapeya attanang chittakale si pandito yesang sambodhyangesu sammachittang subhavitang Adhana patinissagge anupadaya yerata kina vasa sujuti manto te loke parinubbuta. All right, English. Those who cross over. There are few among humans who go to the further shore. The rest of them run about here on this shore. But those well established in Dhamma, those who practice Dhamma, are among those who will cross over beyond the realm of death so difficult to escape. Abandoning the way of darkness, cultivating the bright, the wise go from home to homelessness, which for others is hard to enjoy. Desiring that rare delight, renouncing pleasure, owning nothing of defilements of the mind, the wise person should cleanse himself. Those whose minds are well established in the factors of enlightenment relinquish attachments and delight not in clinging. They, untainted and radiant in this very world, attain Nibbana. Sadhu. We have a good morning from Shin Rivers. Now, I wonder where Shin Rivers is. And that's a name I'm not familiar with. So, is this your first time joining us, Shin? Hello, Ian and Anthony and Douse. Welcome, my friend. Okay, friends. So it is Monday night, and that means it's time for yet another 2-hour festival of Dhamma, Dhammapalooza, with the Maggasekha community. Welcome. This is a night for a variety of Dhamma-related activities. We just did some chanting. Later, we'll do some meditation. But what happens in between then, who knows? Now is the time for the community to figure out how this Dhammapalooza is going to go, because Dhammapalooza is, as always, a community-guided event. I could always come here with all kinds of suttas and lectures and just talk, but this is not fun. Not fun for me, not challenging for me, and not interesting either. It's always fun when we have more of a back and forth, a communication, a discussion. And so for the next couple of minutes, now is the time. If you have any questions for me that you'd like me to talk about, you can put those in the chat. If you have any topics for a Dhamma talk or any topics for discussion related to Buddhism, Dhamma, meditation, monastics, etc., you can put that in the chat. And we'll see how the night goes. As always, I do have a backup sutta for us to read, or we could always just play roulette, sutta roulette, which always, at least on my end, it's fun. I don't know if sutta roulette's really fun for you guys, but for me, I kind of enjoy it because you never know what you're going to get. Ah, you're in China. Oh, well, welcome, Shin. This might be the first time I've ever had somebody in the Maggasekha community join one of the Maggasekha events from China. Good to have you with us. Hello, Robert. Good to see you again. Robert has a question. Robert, you've been around long enough. I'm surprised that you haven't heard me yap on about walking meditation before. Maybe I'm derelict in my duty to talk about walking meditation these days. So let me just getting a link for you. Here we go. Oh, they put commercials on my videos. Adama. All right. Somebody messaged me like a month or two ago. Says, Bante, get commercials off your videos. I said, I have nothing to do with it. That's YouTube. YouTube does it for everybody. Anyway, let me. There we go. So here's the link. This is every time I do a retreat, um, I give this link for those who are new to walking meditation. This is me talking about actually back in Bhavana Society back in 2016, giving walking meditations instructions at a retreat. So this is very good. Now, the only other monastic who really kind of gives walking meditation its due is Bhante Dhammajiva, who is of Mitirigala in Sri Lanka. Bhante, I've never met another monk who loves and talks about walking meditation more than me. And actually, as a matter of fact, Bhante Dhammajiva was the one who actually taught me walking meditation. He was at my very first retreat. So I could probably find the link. He actually just wrote a book a couple years ago, back maybe 2019 or so, on walking meditation. Forgot what it is, what it's called. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, it is like a play on. Here's if you want to have a physical copy. You can also Google it. You could probably find a PDF as well. It's only it only costs if you want a physical copy from Amazon. So Elaine comes in with Yuttadhamma, Bhante Yuttadhamma taught me to do walking meditation. True, true. He does teach. I'm not saying that only two monks teach walking meditation. Many monks teach it, but it's usually not. It's usually kind of like a side thing, or kind of like it's not really given the due that it needs to be given. So very good. Yes, I remember Bhante Yuttadhamma's walking meditation videos even back way back 2008, 2009 when I was fairly new to my Buddhist journey. The thing about walking meditation is this, in terms of instructions, the Buddha never gave like very detailed how to. So a lot of it is kind of left up to interpretation and trying things out. So there's lots and lots of types of walking meditation. I've actually have the idea in my mind, and I've worked on it a little bit, but I don't know if if or when I'll ever get it out. But like making my own walking meditation book, and essentially it kind of being like instructions on walking meditation, but also like a treatise of like all the different ways that walking meditation is taught. I think I've like experienced slash written down probably about 10 or 15 ways at least, including that horrible god awful way of like when everybody like does walking meditation in a line. That's just my hindrance. That's just my suffering, my hindrances calling. But yeah, there's some ways of walking meditation that I just can't get behind, and that's okay. Uh, there's lots of walking meditation for everybody. Walking meditation was the I would not be a monk if I had not learned walking meditation. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. This is why Bhante Dhammajiva is up there with Bhante, with Ajahn Brahm and Bhante G as most important monastics I've ever met in my life. Because he because he was there. He was exactly who I needed when I needed it to learn walking meditation to change everything. All my first major insights on the path were on the walking meditation path, not the sitting path. Right? And that's kind of weird. That's not too common, I don't think. But it's my path. It's the way it goes. So try different kinds of walking meditation and see what works for you. That's what I did. Like I said, I've tried many different types. And what works for me is the walking meditation where you're walking at a normal pace, not like really slow, because that's fake. That's like Ajahn Chah would say that that's not real. That's not nature. That's not reality. That's control. Right. So like this is why I like walking just the regular, whatever your normal walking pace is. You walk at your normal walking pace. You pay attention to the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor or the ground. That's the very, very basic beginning, just like following the breath, watching the breath coming in and going out, watching the feeling of the feet pressing and lifting, pressing and lifting. And Ajahn Chah has probably my favorite walking meditation quote. It says, do your walking meditation until you make ruts into the ground, like as high as your shins or something like that." Right? Like walk until you make ruts. I love that. All right. So Greg has a question here. Visited my parents this weekend. I was struck by a strong sense of samvega from their failing memory and how I may follow them in the future. May? Well, let's get it straight. Your memory is whether not. I'm not even talking about Alzheimer's, dementia, etc. The older you get, for the 95% of people, the older you get, your memory is going to be shot one way or another. Even Bhante G, right? Bhante G has been meditating for 70 years. 95 years old, been a monk since he was a kid. But I could tell when he was tired, when he would be forgetful, when he was like, I was like, oh, no. It's like, yeah. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Right. Like it makes perfect sense that this is the nature of the body. This is the nature of the brain. This is the nature of things as you get older. You don't just magically fix it because you've been a meditator for, however many years. Like maybe if you became awakened, you could do something about it. But But this is the nature, right? This is the nature of the mind. This is the nature of the body. I was lucky that I grew up around the greatest generation. I grew up around dozens, probably hundreds of old people in my life, meeting them, being around some, going to funerals. Um, so I got to see this. I got to see the great variety. I got to see old people who were peppy and energetic and clear minded, and the total opposite. Right. So thankfully, I got to see that from a young age. Right. This is now my parents are what getting close to mid 70s, still in the early 70s, early to mid, and it's starting to happen to them too. There's been signs for probably a good 5 or 6 years actually. Um, but it's like, oh yeah, well, this is. I was, if they were going to live this long, I knew this was coming. Right, I'd seen it enough growing up. So, heck, right now they're older than 3 out of 4 of their parents. They've outlived 3 out of 4 of their parents right now. So, my grandparents, only one made it past like 71. So this is a you say Samvega, that's fine. Turn it into Nibbida, disenchantment, right? Disenchantment with this body, with being born again. Why do I want to do this again? It's just going to end up in the same place. For me, it's like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to have to go through high school again. Right? I don't want to have to do this. Like, I mean, I had a pretty decent childhood, especially compared to a lot of the kids I worked with when I did CPS. Um, I wouldn't want to do that again either. No. So these things are there for us to contemplate, to reflect on, and to help us with the path. I, Samvega and Nibbida, these are not supposed to be negative mind states or aversive mind states. They are a reaction to reality, right? They're a reaction to the truth. It's a letting go. It's a letting go. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to attach to this. Letting go. And the more you contemplate that, the more pasada, tranquility arises. Right? Because you're just at peace with the nature of reality. You're at peace that this body's going to get old, get sick, and eventually it's going to break down and fall apart and die. It's the way it is. So keep reflecting on these things. These are divine messengers, the Buddha says, right? Keep reflecting on them. Don't let the divine messengers go by. Julie says, can we support you through Empty Cloud? No, because I don't live there. No, Empty Cloud is just a place I visit from time to time. This year I spent the most. I've literally never, ever, ever spent 3 months with Bante and Aya in my life. Well, technically, I spent 2 years with Bante Sudaso in the beginning when I first moved to Bhavana. We lived together for the first 2 years. So technically, yes, I've lived with Bante Sudaso. With Aya, no. So that was the first time that I spent the Vasa there, and plus a month and a half before that. I'll probably be back again this year sometime. For how long? I don't know. We'll see. If they want me to watch the place while they go to Italy, they'll call me. They have nobody else. Ian covered it. Thank you, Ian, very much. Robert, you and I are of the same ilk. I did walking meditation in a circle, super slow with Thich Nhat Hanh group, and it was torture for me. Oh boy. Julie says, when I was doing sitting meditation, a sound came from the middle of my throat. It happens sometimes. Is this from concentration, calm state? Any information on this? Never heard of such a thing. But there's a huge variety of experiences that people have. Like, I mean, giving retreats and stuff and talking to thousands of people over the last 7 years. It's amazing the variety of things that just happen to people. And almost all of them I've never heard of before. But a lot of them I heard of now because I've talked to multiple people and maybe one thing multiple people have mentioned. But I've not heard this before. And what I would say is this is probably um, just phenomena that's arising. Maybe it's from a calming of your body. Maybe it is. A sound arises when your throat gets calm. I don't know. You can investigate it if you want. But when it comes to these kind of things, most likely the important thing is not to attach to it, and also not necessarily to just quickly try to find a meaning for it. I know, I've been there. I remember, 2 or 3 times having an experience and like, can't wait to go to Bhavana and ask Bhante, this, Bhante Seelananda, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is that? What is this? What is this? Yeah, I know. So I understand the mind state. It's a curious thing, and you want to know about it. But I would say most likely it's just simply a phenomena of the body that's happening. It could be because of tranquility raising. I don't know. Observe it. Watch it for yourself. See if you can see a cause for it to happen. Hello, Bella and Gautam. Welcome. Malika is asking a question from Australia. Do you like the Dhammagiri setup? We were involved in the setting up of the Dhammagiri at the beginning. I felt sad that I couldn't be there to see you. Oh, we'll see if it ever happens again. Dhammagiri is interesting. I was kind of like waiting to experience what like an American thinks of Australia, like poisonous animals and like unbearable heat and all these kind of things. And I didn't. Like, Bonanyana was kind of nice and Newberry was right up my alley, man. I even watched snow come down. It was great. It was cold, nice and chill. I was and then I go to Damagiri and I'm just dying. I feel like a roasted chicken in my kuti because it's so hot and so humid. I'm like, okay, this is Australia, and I'm so happy I didn't experience this the rest of the month. Ugh. Humidity does not do good for my breathing issues and my allergies and stuff like that. But in terms of how it's set up, I quite like it. I like that there's this kind of monk area away, right? Like if you want to go up to the monk area, you either have to, hike up this really steep, road, or you could drive, I guess. But even when you go up to the top, then that is the public monk area, and then there's a back area where the monks are. It's like I kind of like that because at Bhavana, there was no such thing. There was no hiding. There was no seclusion. Even if they wanted to go to your kuti, it wasn't that far away and it wasn't that steep of a hill. So yeah, I like how it's set up. It's interesting. I noticed the different construction methods of the different monasteries. So Bodhinyana was just all brick. I mean, everything was brick. All the kutis were brick. Everything was brick. Newbury, the old stuff was all like this, like wood, like cabin wood, and the new stuff was kind of like this plaster and wood and stuff like that. And then I go to Dhammagiri and it's all metal. It's like, this is really interesting how the different places are kind of like have different construction methods. I never stayed in like kind of like a metal container kuti before. That's quite interesting. But yeah, the main sala is interesting. I've never also seen like that long. They have the like a screen door. Well, they have this screen door that's like 30 feet long. It like folds in on itself. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So they could have it like open, um, for COVID or for like hot days, so that circulation can come in the sala and things like that. So yeah, it's quite nice, except for the weather. Not a huge fan of the weather. At least when it's that hot. All right. Elaine says Bhante Yuttadhamma's mother lives in Florida. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Oh, that's why he was doing a retreat in Florida. All right, just looking through the comments. Last time I was in Florida was for Dhamma. I was invited to go share Dhamma for 4 days down in Florida. This is back 2017, Naples area. Julie says, I guess I'm kind of nervous that it happens after puja meditation around others. Yeah. So this is the interesting thing about when you meditate with other people, you really have to kind of abandon all hope of quietude. If you're trying to make, like, even if you're at home, but if you're like with other people, what I used to tell people at Bhavana is this: do your best to try to be as quiet as possible and mindful as possible. And when you can't, and when you mess up or you can't be, it's okay, right? Have compassion for yourself, and also allow others to make noise and mess up as well, right? That was important, right? That to teach people to kind of give other people that kind of benefit of the doubt, that allowance, that they are trying to be quiet and mindful, but sometimes stuff happens, right? And that's just normal. I know, I kind of know where you're coming from, because I was literally banned from morning puja at Bhavana and also at Empty Cloud. It's because in the morning, if you ever attend morning monastery experience, you hear I'm always like, I'll just be like chanting and so I was like, my mucus is flowing, and because of my allergies and all the wackiness with my body, stuff is just happening, right? And I remember driving myself nuts at Bhavana, trying to be like totally quiet and totally perfect. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna have compassion for myself and just allow me to do the best that I can and let it be. And the end, it is what it is. Maybe I'll be the lesson that will help somebody gain some kind of insight. Right? So if you're with a group, if something happens, this is an involuntary thing, right? Just let it happen. Let it be. It's okay. Right? If somebody really gets that agitated over it, well, that's their agitation. That's their aversion. Right? It's not something you did. It's just an experience, the reaction to the experience. You never know that it could be the impetus, it could be the breakthrough for somebody to gain some kind of insight. man, I was at this retreat and this woman kept doing this weird noises with her throat when she was meditating, and I got so agitated and agitated. All of a sudden, I was like, whoa. And then I said, well, why is the sound bothering me? That's no problem. It's just sound. Ah, Hubertus Herman, welcome, my friend. We have Indonesia today. We have China, Eastern Europe. All right. I see the chat is quiet. So why don't we read a sutta? Okay. Let's read an interesting sutta. Every once in a while we read this sutta because it's quite unique in the suttas. Because this is the one place in the suttas where you kind of, so when it comes to a lot of like the stories of the Buddha, the miraculous things and kind of like the mythological story, yada yada, like Westerners kind of like, oh yeah, that was just a later thing, but we know that in the early text is different. And then you read this sutta and you're like, well, maybe not. So this is one of those suttas where people who are kind of converting slash getting into Buddhism, who have aversion towards this kind of stuff, might, they kind of have struggle with this one. But we should read this. This is a important sutta. This is really the only place, as far as I've ever seen, the only place in the early texts where you do see this. And it's right in the Majjhima Nikaya. So let's share. Share screen. Majjhima Nikaya number 123. Incredible and amazing. Oh, 24 people. Welcome, everybody. We have a good showing tonight. Most of you aren't typing in the chat, so I don't know who you are and where you're from, but welcome. Glad for you to be here with us on Dhammapalooza, our Monday night festival of Dhamma that happens every Monday, 8 p.m. New York time. All right, so let's do some reading. Incredible and amazing. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then, after the meal on return from alms round, several senior mendicants sat together in the assembly hall, and this discussion came up among them. It's incredible, Reverence. It's amazing, the power and might of the realized one. For he is able to know the Buddhas of the past who have become completely extinguished, cut off proliferation, cut off the track, finished off the cycle, and transcended suffering. He knows the caste they were born in, and also their names, clans, conduct, teaching, wisdom, meditation, and freedom. When they said this, Venerable Ananda said, the realized ones are incredible. So the realized ones, right? So this is interesting, right? The Buddhas, the Tathagata. And so this is plural. The realized ones are incredible, Reverence, and they have incredible qualities. They're amazing. They have amazing qualities. But this conversation among those mendicants was left unfinished. Then in the late afternoon, the Buddha came out of retreat, went to the assembly hall, sat down on the seat spread out, and addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, what were you sitting talking about just now? What conversation was left unfinished? So the mendicants told him what they had been talking about. The Buddha said. So you can see here, This is the what you see in the Pali. All this in the Pali. I don't know if you can even see my mouse cursor. All this in the Pali, and just one line in the English. That's because the whole thing that we just read is repeated again. And this is what modern translators do in the effort to make it a little bit easier for people to read and to get into. Oh, hey Jay Bowen down from New Zealand. We have a lot of Pacific people with us. Diego, hola, my friend. Rupa, hello Rupa. Chile, yes, Chile. All right, let's continue reading. Well then, Ananda, say some more about the incredible and amazing qualities of the realized one. So the Buddha's like, oh, you said this? Okay, well, say some more. Sir, I have heard and learned this in the presence of the Buddha. So Ananda's saying, well, I've heard this from you, or somebody else mentioned it and you agreed with it. Mindful and aware, the being intent on awakening was reborn in the host of the joyful gods. The Tusita, right? So we have here Tusitang, Tusita heaven. This I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. So this is the Bodhisattva who, before coming into the human realm, to become fully awakened Sammasambuddha, they are in the Tusita heaven before that. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha, mindful and aware that being intent on awakening remained in the host of joyful gods. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. For the whole of that life, the being intent on awakening remained in the host of the joyful gods. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. Mindful and aware, the being intent on awakening passed away from the host of joyful gods and was conceived in his mother's womb. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening passes away from the host of the joyful gods. Wait, did I? Okay, it is. I thought it's like, did I just read the same thing over again? He is conceived in his mother's womb. And then, in this world with its gods, Maras, and Brahmas, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, gods and humans, an immeasurable, magnificent light appears, surpassing the glory of the gods. And even the sentient beings reborn there, recognize each other by that light. So it seems other sentient beings have been reborn there. So this is like I guess a place of darkness. Oh no, wait, what am I doing? Did I just? Okay. And even in the boundless desolation of interstellar space, so utterly dark that even the light of the moon and the sun, so mighty and powerful, makes no impression. An immeasurable, magnificent light appears, surpassing the glory of the gods. And even the sentient beings reborn there recognize each other by that light. So it seems other sentient beings have been reborn here. So they're in like complete darkness as beings, and now these beings are actually mind-made beings. These are not like, this is not like a hell realm. This is actually somebody who is a highly advanced meditator, right? Like dimension of infinite space, infinite nothingness, etc. And so they have these like mind-made existences where they're just mind for like 84,000 years or 84,000 eons or something, some ridiculously long period of time. And so here, when the Buddha is born, the light that goes through the 10,000 world systems is so bright that even the beings in darkness can see that there are other beings that they couldn't see before. And this galaxy shakes and rocks and trembles. And an immeasurable, magnificent light appears in the world, surpassing the glory of the gods. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, four deities approach to guard the four quarters, so that no human or non human or anyone at all shall harm the being intent on awakening or his mother. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, she becomes naturally ethical. She refrains from killing living creatures, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and alcoholic drinks that cause negligence. So she immediately starts to follow the five precepts. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, she no longer feels sexual desire for men, and she cannot be violated by a man of lustful intent. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. What you don't have here, interestingly enough, is the famous part of the story that comes later of the white elephant coming to Maya, the Buddha's mother, and how the Buddha is conceived there. Very, very kind of similar story beats to, I think it goes back to the Zoroastrians. This kind of like the person being born, there's certain qualities that have to be there for this person to be this, like, you know, high quality person. Same thing with Jesus, the virgin birth, right? So this is this kind of um thing of like setting the rarity, the difference, the setting apart. The This is not like a normal situation. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, she obtains the five kinds of sensual stimulation and amuses herself, supplied and provided with them. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Right? So she is like given, she becomes ethical. She doesn't get involved sexually, but then she also has pleasant experiences that happen. Right? She is endowed with, she obtains the five kinds of, these are pleasant experiences from the senses. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, no afflictions beset her. She's happy and free of bodily fatigue, and she sees the being intent on awakening in her womb, complete with all his various parts, not deficient in any faculty. Suppose there was a beryl gem that was naturally beautiful, eight-faceted, well worked, and it was strung with a thread of blue, yellow, red, white, or golden brown. And someone with good eyesight were to take it in their hand and examine it. This gem is naturally beautiful, eight-faceted, well worked, and is strung with a thread of blue, yellow, red, white, or golden brown. In the same way, when the being intent on awakening is conceived in his mother's belly, no afflictions beset her, she's happy and free of bodily fatigue, and she sees the being intent on awakening in her womb, complete with all his various parts, not deficient in any faculty. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. 7 days after the being intent on awakening is born, his mother passes away and is reborn in the host of the joyful gods. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. So the mother goes to the place where the Buddha just came from, the Tusita heaven. I've learned this in the presence of the Buddha. Other women carry the infant in the womb for 9 or 10 months before giving birth. Not so the mother of the being intent on awakening. She gives birth after exactly 10 months. Now, keep in mind here, they are counting from the day of conception, just like uh, what you call it. What am I talking about? Oh, never mind. I'm mixing something up. I'm mixing the birthday thing. It's in different cultures. They count from the day of conception. It's like so when you're born, you're almost one, kind of a thing. So never mind that. I mixed up something. No, this too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. Other women give birth while sitting or lying down, not so the mother of the being intent on awakening. She only gives birth standing up. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, gods receive him first, and then humans. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, before he reaches the ground, 4 deities receive him and place him before his mother, saying, "Rejoice, O Queen, an illustrious son is born to you." This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, he emerges already clean, unsoiled by waters, mucus, blood, or any other kind of impurity, pure and clean. Now, if you've ever actually seen a person give birth, then you see the baby comes out looking pretty, pretty wrecked. Right? Yeah. So this is now the Buddha comes out of the womb just completely clean, no problems, looking good. Suppose a jewel treasure was placed on a cloth from Kasi, the jewel would not soil the cloth, nor would the cloth soil the jewel. Why is that? Because the cleanliness of them both. In the same way, when the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, he emerges already clean, unsoiled by waters, mucus, blood, or any other kind of impurity, pure and clean. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, 2 streams of water appear in the sky, one cool, one warm, for bathing the being intent on awakening and his mother. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Because I always thought that it was funny because I, for a long time, was kind of like, oh, yeah, this whole thing, the baby walking thing, this is like a later made up thing. It's like this, not. And then I read the sutra, I was like, oh, I guess it's not. I first saw this in that movie, Little Buddha from the 90s. Like the little baby gets up and is walking, and the lotus thing, flowers come up, right? And the little baby says something. It's like, oh, okay, this is just later mythology. But here it is. As soon as he's born, the being intent on awakening stands firm on his own feet on the ground. Facing north, he takes 7 strides with a white parasol held above him, surveys all quarters, and makes this dramatic proclamation. I am the foremost in the world. I am the eldest in the world. I am the first in the world. This is my last rebirth. Now there are no more future lives. This too I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. I have learned this in the presence of the Buddha. When the being intent on awakening emerges from his mother's womb, then, in this world with its gods, Maras, and Brahmas, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, gods and humans, an immeasurable magnificent light appears, surpassing the glory of the gods. So when the conception happens, the light. When the Buddha is born, the light. Also when the Buddha becomes awakened, and also when the Buddha passes away, parinibbana. Even in the boundless desolation of interstellar space, so utterly dark that even light of the moon and the sun, so mighty and powerful, makes no impression, an immeasurable, magnificent light appears, surpassing the glory of the gods. And the sentient beings reborn there recognize each other by that light. So it seems other sentient beings have been reborn here. And this galaxy shakes and rocks and trembles, and an immeasurable, magnificent light appears in the world, surpassing the glory of the gods. This too I remember as an incredible and amazing quality of the Buddha. Well then, Ananda, you should also remember that this is an incredible and amazing quality of the realized one. Now, this is my favorite. This is on point Buddha. This is on point Buddha. Many places, magnificent, amazing things will happen, and then the Buddha goes straight to the point. Well, Ananda, you should also remember this incredible and amazing quality. It's that the realized one knows feelings as they arise, as they remain, and they go away. Knows perceptions as they arise, remain, and go away. Knows thoughts as they arise, remains, and go away. This too you should remember as an incredible and amazing quality of the realized one. Sir, the Buddha knows feelings as they arise, as they remain, and as they go away. He knows perceptions as they arise, as they remain, as they go away. He knows thoughts as they arise, as they remain, as they go away. This too I remember as an incredible and amazing quality of the Buddha. That's what Ananda said, and the teacher approved. Satisfied, those mendicants were happy with what Venerable Ananda said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. Okay, friends. So we have come to the end of our amazing sutta. Chat is quiet. Why don't we do some meditation? So we'll get started with meditation. Then after meditation, maybe we will do some sutta roulette, read some Dhammapada, close out. We'll see what happens. But I think since chat is quiet, there are no questions. Now is a good time to meditate. Set your body up in whatever stable and comfortable position works for you. We'll spend some time scanning through the body for two reasons. First, to slowly bring our body from the external to the internal, focusing more on this mind and body. And secondly, to understand our body, understand our posture, so that we can set our body up in a way that we can sit for longer periods of time with less pain. We'll start by bringing our focus and attention to our feet. By bringing focus and attention, this means to pay attention to whatever sensation or feeling arises in that part of the body. As you're scanning through, you might notice part of the body causing an imbalance in your posture or a small feeling of discomfort. Now is the time to adjust and move now. A small feeling of discomfort now can turn into a large pain 20 minutes from now. So adjust as much as you need to set your body up. Bring your awareness and focus up through the ankles into the calves. through the knees and into the thighs. Up through to the hips and pelvis. Pay close attention always to this part of the body, as the position of the hips and pelvis has a great impact on your posture, especially the spine. Bring your focus up the spine, through the abdomen, the chest, checking that the spine is not leaning and slouching. Ideally, you want the spine to be neutral. Back sitting up straight. The airway is not obstructed. You can breathe easy. Up through to the shoulders, checking that they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Down through to the elbows and the hands. Observe how the position of the elbows and hands impacts the posture, the position of the spine. And finally up to the head, checking that the head is also not leaning and slouching here and there, chin parallel to the floor. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. Your body has been breathing from the moment you were born, will continue to do so until the second you die. Does it need you to do its job? Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. Watch as this body breathes in. Watch as the body breathes out. Friends, we come to our meditation with many responsibilities, worries, and burdens. Many things that will seek to come to our mind as we follow the breath. Family and friends, work and school, worries about the society, the world. For the time of this meditation, we practice laying down our burdens. It's like the mighty Atlas of Greek mythology who holds the world on his shoulders. So too do we each hold our world on our shoulders, a heavy burden. For the time of this meditation, lay your burden down, put your world down, and follow the breath. There'll be plenty of time to pick it back up again later. As you seek to follow the breath, your mind will become bored. You'll want to run away to the past or the future, across the world or the galaxy, or a distraction will arise like a sound. Your mind will chase after it. Whenever this happens, you did not fail or do anything wrong. This is simply the mind showing you its craving, showing you how it works. Whenever you get distracted away, lost in the fantasy, after a time it will slowly start to dawn on you that you've been taken away from the breath. When this happens, fully acknowledge that you've been taken away. Try to come back to full focus and attention and mindfulness. Then practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor getting too excited and grasping onto it. Simply try to let it be, let it go, give it no energy. Let it go as it came, and then return to the breath. Whenever you're distracted away, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Always come back to the breath. Breath is always there doing its thing, ready for you to come and follow it towards a more peaceful and tranquil mind that sees things as they are. Buddha tells us you can follow the breath all the way to awakening. Always come back home. Follow the breath. When following your breath, every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? If it is, you may begin to notice further characteristics of the breath. More subtle, deep, harder to see. You may see that the breath is sometimes long and deep, sometimes short and shallow, changing and moving in duration, ease. Try to do your best to observe all the different ways that the breath is different from each in-breath and out-breath. Observe the changing nature of the breath. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Slowly start to come out of the meditation by opening your eyes, moving from the internal to the external, becoming aware of the room around you, the live stream, reflecting on how your mind has changed from before the meditation to now, and any experiences, notable experiences you may have had during the meditation. And while you do that, I can bring up the Dhammapada. coming close to the end of the Dhammapada now, after maybe about a year and a half's worth of, maybe a year or so. I started reading the Dhammapadas towards the end of the Buddha Dhammapaloozas. I'm getting tired. Starting to be a little wonky. All right. As our friend who has trouble with the sharing is not here today, or else I would have heard about it. Poor guy who the screen is blurry for them. All right. The holy man. Exert yourself, holy man. Cut off the stream of craving and discard sense desires. Knowing the destruction of all conditioned things, become, O holy man, the knower of the uncreated, i.e., Nibbana. When a holy man has reached the summit of two paths, meditative concentration and insight, so samatha and vipassana, he knows the truth and all his fetters fall away. He for whom there is neither this shore nor the other shore, nor yet both, he who is free of cares and is unfettered, him do I call a holy man. So we're talking about awakened beings here. All these lines so far. He who is meditative, stainless, and settled, whose work is done, awakened, and who is free from cankers, asavas. These are cankers. This is an older translation. You might have heard it as the taints. Right? That's a newer translation. Outflows. Having reached the highest goal, him do I call the holy man. The sun shines by day, the moon shines by night. The warrior shines in armor, the holy man shines in meditation. But the Buddha shines resplendent all day and all night. That's an awesome line, isn't it? Gotta remember that line, actually. Because he has discarded evil, he is called a holy man. Because he is serene in conduct, he is called a recluse. And because he has renounced his impurities, he is called a renunciate. One should not strike a holy man, nor should a holy man, when struck, give way to anger. Obviously, for an awakened being, this would not be the case. They could not do so. Shame on him who strikes a holy man, and more shame on him who gives way to anger. Nothing is better for a holy man than when he holds his mind back from what is endearing, to the extent that the intent to harm wears away, to the extent that does suffering subside. He who does no evil in deed, word, or thought, who is restrained in these three ways, him do I call a holy man. Just as a Brahmin priest reveres his sacrificial fire, even so should one devoutly revere the person from whom one has learned the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. Not by matted hair, nor by lineage, nor by birth does one become a holy man. So matted hair, dreadlocks. This is one of the wanderers of other sects. They would wear their hair in dreadlocks. But in whom truth and righteousness exist, he is pure, he is a holy man. What is the use of your matted hair, O witless man? What of your garment of antelope's hide? Within you is the tangle of passion. Only outwardly do you cleanse yourself. The person who wears a robe made of rags, who is lean, who with veins showing all over the body, and who meditates alone in the forest, him do I call a holy man. I do not call him a holy man because of his lineage or a high-born mother. If he is full of impeding attachments, he is just a supercilious man. But who is free from impediments and clinging, him do I call a holy man. He who, having cut off all fetters, trembles no more, who has overcome all attachments and is emancipated, him do I call a holy man. He who has cut off the thong of hatred, the band of craving, and the rope of false views, together with the opportun, opportunent, opportunences. That's an interesting word. That's a really old word. Opportunences, latent evil tendencies. He who has removed the crossbar of ignorance and is enlightened, him do I call a holy man. He who without resentment endures abuse, beating, and punishment, whose power, real might, is patience, him do I call a holy man. He who is free from anger is devout, virtuous, without craving, self-subdued, and bears his final body, awakened. Him do I call a holy man. Like water on a lotus leaf, or a mustard seed on the point of a needle, he who does not cling to sensual pleasures, him do I call a holy man. He who in this very life realizes for himself the end of suffering, who has laid aside the burden and become emancipated, him do I call a holy man. He who has profound knowledge, who is wise, skilled in discerning the right or wrong path, and has reached the highest goal, him do I call a holy man. He who holds aloof from householders and ascetics alike, and wanders about with no fixed abode, but few wants, him do I call a holy man. He who has renounced violence towards all living beings, weak or strong, who neither kills nor causes others to kill, him do I call a holy man. He who is friendly amidst the hostile, peaceful amidst the violent, and unattached amidst the attached. This is the line from the earlier in the Dhammapada. Oh, happy we are, we who are free of hostility, who live amongst the hostile. Right? Him do I call a holy man. He whose lust and hatred, pride and hypocrisy have fallen off like mustard seed from the point of a needle, him do I call a holy man. He who utters gentle, instructive, and truthful words, who appreciates none, imprecates? Who imprecates none, him do I call a holy man. He who in this world takes nothing that is not given to him, be it long or short, small or big, good or bad, him do I call a holy man. He who wants nothing of either this world or the next, who is desire free and emancipated, him do I call a holy man. Reminds me of the qualities of a senior. Yeah, it's very similar, Dals. Yeah. He who has no attachment, who through perfect knowledge is free from doubt, and has plunged into the deathless, him do I call a holy man. He who in this world has transcended the ties of both merit and demerit, who is sorrowless, stainless, and pure, him do I call a holy man. He who, like the moon, is spotless and pure, serene and clear, who has destroyed the holy man. He who, having traversed this miry, perilous, and delusive round of existence. Miry. I'm assuming it's mired, but a different way of saying it, miry. He has crossed over and reached the other shore, who is meditative, calm, free from doubt, and clinging to nothing has attained to Nibbana. Him do I call a holy man. He who, having abandoned sensual pleasures, has renounced the household life and has become a homeless one, has destroyed both sensual desire and continued existence. Him do I call a holy man. He who, having abandoned craving, has renounced the household life and become a homeless one, has destroyed both craving and continued existence. Him do I call a holy man. He who, casting off human bonds and transcending heavenly ties, is wholly delivered from all bondages. Him do I call a holy man. He who, having cast off likes and dislikes, has become tranquil, is rid of the substrata of existence, and like a hero has conquered all the worlds. Him do I call a holy man. He who in every way knows the death and rebirth of all beings, and is totally detached, blessed and enlightened, him do I call a holy man. He whose track no gods, no angels, no humans trace, the Arahant who has destroyed all cankers, him do I call a holy man. He who clings to nothing of the past, present, and future, who has no attachment and holds on to nothing, him do I call a holy man. He, the noble, the excellent, the heroic, the great sage, the conqueror, the passionless, the pure, the enlightened one, him do I call a holy man. He who knows his former births, who seeks heaven and hell, who has reached the end of births and attained to the perfection of insight, the sage who has reached the summit of spiritual excellence, him do I call a holy man. And look at this. We have reached the end of the Dhammapada. And so, next Dhammapalooza, we go back to the beginning. This is the translation we've been using, Acharya Buddharakkhita, widely understood to be one of the best translations. It's my favorite translation. So this is what we've been using, and starting next week, we will start back again. All right, I think I'm going to call it a night. So let's go through the business and do our sharing of merits and call it a night. All right, friends. So this is Dhammapalooza every Monday night where I'm available. If I'm not, someplace where I can't do it, then not every Monday night. But anytime I'm in a place where I can do it, Monday night, 8 p.m. New York time, Dhammapalooza. Next week, I will be doing Dhammapalooza from Line of Wisdom. Well, if I'm alive and things go as planned, I'll be down a Line of Wisdom with Bhante Rahula in Maryland, Western Maryland. And I'll be doing Dhammapalooza there for at least a month, maybe a little bit more. And so then also, if you're on Insight Timer, Saturdays at 3 p.m. New York time, I do an 1.5-hour Insight Timer session. We also do our weekly sutta readings on our Discord. The Discord is a online community that studies and practices through the early Buddhist texts, the suttas. This is an online community that is not a general Buddhist community. It is very focused on the suttas. And if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, you can send an email to the email listed on the screen and ask for an invite to join us. If you are if you are seeing this stream for the first time and if you'd like to learn more or find out or be able to be notified when there's more streams, I do Zoom retreats, different videos, articles, etc., stuff like that. Then you can go to the website on the ticker going below, Maggasekha.org, Maggasekha. Maggasekha means student of the path. This is my organization. So Maggasekha.org, top right, and on the website, you can put your email in, and then anytime I post about anything that I do, then you will get an email notification. Same thing on YouTube. You can click subscribe, click the bell, and anytime I do anything on YouTube, you will get a notification. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, while I'm able to do it Monday through Friday, every morning, 8 a.m. New York time, we do morning monastery experience, which is a half-hour experience like you would find if you were staying at a monastery, a morning puja, right? A morning precepts, a little bit of chanting, a little bit of Dhamma teaching, right? All in a nice half-hour package to start the day. So we'll be back doing that normally 8 a.m., but for the next 2 days, I'll be doing it at 8:30. So tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. My time, we'll be back for morning monastery experience. So friends, with that, I think we can end, do our sharing of merits. Let's get the sharing of merits up. If I can find it. There we go. All right. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, soka patta chani soka, hantu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha amehi sampatang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata jabumata deva naga mahiddika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, but may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Well, until we meet again, may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice. Suki Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. Have a good rest of the week.